Coming up on The Breakdown. Every family has at least one Trumpy uncle who spouts off at Thanksgiving. But what if he was elected to Congress? Arizona Congressman and extremist Paul Gosar has siblings, and they are here to speak out. January 6th insurrectionists are finally starting to face justice. We'll have the latest. And 52 years ago today, America landed on the moon. And tonight, we celebrate another first for American spaceflight. Plus, your questions from Twitter. It all starts now. Good evening and welcome to The Breakdown. Rick Wilson is already drinking tonight. It's been that kind of a day. I'm Tara Setmayer. It's been a full day. That's true. It's all right. We can drink on a Tuesday. There's no rules against that. But we're glad that we are here with you guys tonight. We have a great show planned for you. Tonight, Rick, we have the three siblings of Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar. They're here together to talk about what it's like being related to someone that's like literally working to destroy our democracy. I can't imagine what Thanksgiving dinner is like with them, but they are here with us. And you know what? I think we all may be able to learn something from their experience. I'm anxious to hear what they have to say because I just can't imagine that that's easy to do. So stay tuned for the Gosar siblings. They're coming up in a little bit. But before we get started, as always, please send us your questions on Twitter. Use the hashtag #AskTheBreakdown, and we will answer some of your questions later on in the show. We also have the voicemail system. That's a go, using some rocket terminology because we had space stuff happening today. But there's our phone number. Call us, leave us a message, and we're going to talk a little space stuff later on in the show as well because both Rick and I are space nerds, so are our producers. That's why I have my NASA shirt on tonight because we're going to talk a little space later on too. So, Rick Wilson, guess what? We made another appearance. The Lincoln Project made another appearance in the blockbuster Trump book, I Alone Can Fix It, by Phil Rucker and Carol Leonnig, that is out today. We've been hearing a buzz about this book for the last couple of days, almost since last week, with excerpts coming out of some pretty extraordinary stuff. We heard from Michael Bender last week, who also has a book out about the last year of the Trump presidency. Frankly, we did win the election. We had Michael on Thursday. He had some extraordinary stuff. But this book is another whole long, big thing about what happened in the last year. And the Lincoln Project is in there. We made an appearance in Michael Bender's book also, but this is actually a different anecdote that I would like to share with our audience.
Is it time for a dramatic reading?
It is time for a dramatic reading. This has to do with before the insurrection happened. In December, some folks may remember that the Lincoln Project decided to remind the president about Mike Pence's role in certifying the election. And in the book on page 439, they talk about how our ad drove Trump nuts. And we had heard back at the time, right, Rick, that Trump really didn't fully realize what Pence's role was in certifying the election on January 6th until he saw our ad and was like, wait, what the hell? What do you mean? Well, it's confirmed in the book. It says that the ad was the brainchild of top flight Republican strategists who were proud never Trumpers, and it aired only in the DC media market and during commercial breaks on Fox and Friends. Its target audience was just one man, the president, and its aim was to prey on his paranoia about disloyalty. It worked. Trump was furious about the ad and told Pence to send the Lincoln Project a cease and desist letter. We never got that I'm aware of, did we?
No.
Did you know that
they never
part?
Did.
Did you know they were going to send a cease and desist letter?
I did know that, actually. I did know that.
I didn't know that part.
We were hearing stuff from inside the White House and inside the campaign, it was like cheating sometimes because we would know what would make Trump crazy. Right. Because he would call and tear Jason Miller a new asshole. And we would know what was going on. People were talking in the White House all the time. The place was riddled with leaks.
Oh, and that drove him crazy too.
We had heard that he was really, really, really angry with Mike Pence. And so, of course, we poked the bear. And I do feel guilty about one thing. This ad almost got Mike Pence killed.
Whoever would have thought that, though?
Right? And, you know, I did not want to have that as a
correction. That ad didn't almost get Mike Pence killed. Donald Trump almost got Mike Pence killed.
True.
Let's be clear.
True.
Right? Let's be clear about that. And it says also here in the book that
first in the year, but I didn't want that one to be one.
Right. No kidding. It said that Pence ignored the president's order, not wanting to draw more attention to the ad, but Pence actually wanted to fulfill Trump's wishes. It goes on to talk about how Pence talked to Lindsey Graham and a bunch of people about ways that he could possibly get out of this ceremonial thing and like maybe do what Trump wanted to overturn the election. And everyone was like, no. It's not constitutional. It's illegal. Like, stop it. But it was Giuliani and the pillow guy and the Kraken chick and all them feeding Trump this bullshit. And Mark Meadows was just as bad feeding all of this that led Trump to continue to beat that drum. But for those who don't remember what that ad was, let's show you.
The end is coming, Donald. Even Mike Pence knows. He's backing away from your train wreck, from your desperate lies and clown lawyers. When Mike Pence is running away from you, you know it's over. Trying to save his reputation, protect his future. Oh, there's one last thing, Donald. On January 6th, Mike Pence will put the nail in your political coffin when he presides over the Senate vote to prove Joe Biden won. It's over. And Mike Pence knows it.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Yep, he didn't like that. I just want to read one last line from this part of the book because it's funny to me because, I can't stand Mike Pence because I think he's a wussy ass. Well, apparently we weren't the only ones. So one of the Trump advisors said, it's the ultimate irony that a guy who acted like a total sycophantic pussy for 4 years, Trump wants him to be the $6 million man at the end. Well, shit, the guy hasn't stood up to anybody for 4 years, and now you want him to stand up illegally, unconstitutionally to the United States Senate and the House of Representatives? Are you nuts? Have you looked at Mike Pence? Yeah.
So this is
read the book. It's full of stuff like that.
Yeah, this is one of several books that talks about in a small way our role in the 2020 election, and it's also, folks, one of the reasons that the far right and the Trump right and the Trump media complex, to this minute, they can't decide what to do with us.
That's true.
We're constantly in their mind as a sort of weird political fuck, marry, kill problem. And they hate us and they want to say, well, you did nothing. You were totally ineffective. Then it's also, you took away our play toy, fuck you. And then it's, well, you didn't accomplish this X hypothetical goal that we're describing, not your mission. And it's just fascinating because we've heard from a lot of people, and frankly, some of our friends on the left, looking at you, AOC, who said, oh, you take the L, you didn't do anything. We were very clear all along what we were doing. We told you what we were doing. It's one of the unique things about our super PAC philosophy. We tell you what we're going to do.
Right.
We're going to mess with the bad guys.
That's right.
We're going to mess with their heads. We're going to make them crazy. We're going to make them do stupid shit. And sure enough, the other mention in this book, of course, is about the Brad Parscale ad that we talked about again last week.
Right, with Michael Bender.
Last week.
Yeah.
And that ad was also in this book about how we made Trump fire his campaign manager, blow up his whole campaign in the middle of the year. We did that.
Yeah.
There's a memo that I wrote that I should release at some point. There's a memo I wrote on May the 8th or 10th of last year that just said, I'm hearing rumors from our people inside that Trump is really unhappy with Parscale making all this money. We should have fun with this. And we went and had fun with it. And we went and built something that broke Trump's brain. And that's what we're going to do in 2022, guys. We're going to go after a lot of these bad guys. We're going to break their brains. We're going to go after Trump and continue to mess with him. So there's a division in the Republican Party. We're going to go after McConnell because he hates Donald Trump breathing down his thick, wattled neck. We're going to go after all these people, and we're going to do what we do best, which is to make bad guys suffer.
And fight.
And fight amongst themselves.
Yes. Speaking of that, in a different kind of way, the insurrectionists are starting to some justice is starting to be served with these bastards. Yesterday, Paul Hotchkiss, he was that goon carrying the giant Trump flag through the Capitol. Not the guy with the Confederate flag, but the Trump flag. There he is right there. There's that jerk off. Well, he's going to spend a couple months in jail, 8 months, I believe. His lawyer claimed that he lost his way that day and he just followed the crowd, claimed that he was a great guy and he would make a great neighbor. And he said, quote, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, he said this, the Hotchkiss guy, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that I'm truly remorseful and regretful for my actions, not because I face consequences, right, but because of the damage that day's incident caused and the way this country that I love has been so hurt. Yeah, screw you, buddy. You're going to spend 8 months in prison.
Enjoy.
There are more sentences being.
Have fun,
that's right.
Have fun in the big house.
That's right.
Look,
more sentences are going to be handed down on this. Yeah. Just to put a button on this. The Oath Keepers, a couple of them have started to plead guilty on things. They're going to be sentenced.
Flip.
Yes. Well, that's the hope, right? That they'll flip and talk a little bit more because we know there was a lot more organization than people are admitting to. Will they flip on members of Congress? Will they flip on who the inside organizers were on that? We'll see. One of your Proud Boys buddies pleaded guilty to something else. That what's his name, Enrique Torrio or whatever his name is. Yeah, him. For burning the Black Lives Matter flag that he ripped off a church in D.C. and then carried guns into the city. I mean, these guys.
I don't know if you know that Ann Coulter was defending him today, and I was just like,
of course she was.
I know that the desperate funk that surrounds you, like a sort of swamp-like miasma of Marlboro Reds, cheap white wine, and cat litter is a constant source of disappointment. But don't go defending a guy like Enrique Torrio, for fuck's sake.
Why are you surprised? What are you surprised?
I'm really not.
We're talking about Ann Coulter here, who is a has-been that no one cares about anymore. And you've just given her more airtime than she's had in 5 years. So, who cares what she thinks? Stuart Stevens, we do care what Stu says. He's one of our senior advisors here and one of the genius minds behind a lot of the ad content that you guys put together. Stu put out a tweet about the new committee members. McCarthy picked the January 6th select committee members. There's 5 of them. 3 of them, by the way, voted against the commission and voted also to overturn the election that day. They were part of the 147, which is just insane. You've got the jerk-off Jim Jordan that's on there, who's just there to wreak havoc. Jim Banks, Kelly Armstrong, Rodney Davis, Troy Nels, who's a freshman. I just want to say something about this too. Stuart's tweet, he was like, they all look like the same person. Well, yeah, it's kind of like cookie cutter, idiots right now in the Republican Party, angry white men, middle-aged angry white men. But Nancy Pelosi has the ability to reject these picks if she wants. And frankly, I think she should. She should reject the 3, at least, who voted not only against this select committee, because it seems awfully counterintuitive. Why do you have the fox guarding the hen house here? But they also voted to overturn the election the day of the insurrection. They are part of the problem. They are like proverbial unindicted co-conspirators of that day, of a freaking insurrection.
Jim Jordan is absolutely one of the people who has led the big lie. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely one of the people whose entire process is nothing but trolling. He is there to provide a feeder stream for Fox News to run dumb fucking stories saying, well, yes, all these facts were presented, but then Jim Jordan owned the libs. She should remove him immediately. No, she should remove him immediately. There's no law enforcement or classified material these people should ever be trusted with. I wouldn't let Jim Jordan babysit a stray dog. This is a guy who is a dangerous figure in our political culture. And Pelosi should exercise her discretion on this matter and tell Kevin McCarthy, fuck you, come back with a serious person.
That's correct.
There are a handful of them that could be.
That's right. There's at least 10, right? There's Kinzinger, there's Peter Mayer, there's a bunch of others who did not, in fact, vote to overturn the election, and also who voted to impeach Donald Trump because they recognize that the guy is a freaking danger to the country and was, derelict in his duty as president. But we'll see what happens with that because, his master down there in Mar-a-Lago, well, he's in New Jersey now, Bedminster, won't allow Kevin McCarthy to actually make a decision that's good for the country.
Kevin, if you're worried, if you watch Kevin McCarthy's mouth moving, it means Trump's hand is up his ass going. He will not speak a word that Trump does not approve of or even, frankly, right for him.
That's right. He can't put his hand up, Mitch McConnell's ass because it's too tight. So that's why Trump.
These are thoughts I never need to have again.
You started it. You started it.
I know I did.
All right. Before we go to break, though, I just want to bring up one quick thing because we're talking about assholes. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz were running around over the weekend because they couldn't get a venue to have one of their America First, white supremacist rallies. And so a bunch of venues canceled their events. And then so they said, well, fine, we'll have a protest against authoritarianism or whatever nonsense they said. I tweeted out, I said, it's very American to tell fascists to kick rocks because basically that's what they are. So deuces to you, too bad. And then we had a funny Lincoln Project tweet about this, and I want our audience participation. Who is this? Wrong answers only. So tweet at us at #AskTheBreakdown with your who is this wrong answers only of the one and only Matt Gaetz. All right.
My answer, and nobody steal my answer, which was Wedding Singer, Miami, 1985.
Yes. I mean, there's so many things that you could say with that. And I know that our very clever audience will have lots clever things to say. I look forward to a couple at the end of the show. All right. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, but stick around. We are going to talk with the siblings of Congressman Paul Gosar about why he's unfit for office and what family Thanksgiving dinner is like. Stay tuned.
What's happening with the president?
Well, his golf game is just incredible. He's busting his driver, knocking the pins down with his iron and putting like a wild man.
It's not even about COVID. Why can't we force uppity people to take Thorazine? Like, I don't like your attitude. You need some tranquilizers.
Dr. Fauci looks like the laces outside of a football that I'd like to kick. What did we do to Saddam Hussein? What did we do to, people? I mean, these people swung from their neck in front of the world for killing far less people.
We're not attacking the vaccine, never have. We don't judge anyone who takes it.
This is a happy and inclusive movement. We even want to free Britney.
I don't care what you think about fraudulent Sleepy Joe. He's a sex trafficking, demon-possessed mongrel.
Did Donald Trump lose the election in 2020?
Real quick.
Can you answer the question? Did Donald Trump lose the election in 2020?
I'm answering questions. Don't
is
really
this
feel any obligation to answer anything
an uncomfortable
of you.
question for you?
This is the party of Donald Trump. If you think otherwise, you're in for a rude awakening.
And welcome back to The Breakdown. Today, we're talking about the insane actions of Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar. The Republican, he is one of these Republican congressmen that has fully embraced efforts to overturn the election. Rick and I have often referred to him because he is one of the people who is in contact with some of these Stop the Steal organizers like Ali Alexander and others. There's tweets and things with them supporting one another. He told Trump supporters to, quote, conquer the Hill, which is pretty incendiary. And in 2018, 6 of Paul Gosar's siblings actually came out and endorsed his opponent, Dr. Brill, in a political advertisement. That was his opponent back in 2018. They made this ad against their own brother. Take a look.
Paul Gosar, the congressman, isn't doing anything to help rural America.
Paul's absolutely not working for his district.
If they care about health care, they care about their children's health care, they would hold him to account. If they care about jobs, they would hold him to account.
If he actually cared about people in rural Arizona, I bet he'd be fighting for Social Security, for better access to health care. I bet he would be researching what is the most insightful water policy to help the environment of Arizona sustain itself and be successful
and he's not listening to you, and he doesn't have your interests at heart. My name is Tim Gosar.
David Gosar.
Grace Gosar.
Joan Gosar.
Gaston Gosar.
Jennifer Gosar.
Paul Gosar is my brother.
My brother. And I endorse Dr. Brill.
Dr. Brill wholeheartedly endorse Dr. David Brill for Congress.
I'm Dr. David Brill, and I approve this message.
That's pretty serious. Let's bring in 3 of the Gosar siblings, Tim, David, and Jennifer, who are calling for Paul to be removed from Congress because he's unfit for office. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Tim, I want to start with you. What made you and your siblings actually want to come out and speak publicly this forcefully against your brother?
Tara, we followed him. We knew that there were a lot of issues, leading up to when we came out and did those campaign videos. You see that, someone causing harm, doing damage, being unhinged, you have a right and you have a duty to be able to step in and get involved. And so we felt like that was a good opportunity to be able to alert people that he was dangerous, that he was unhinged, that he was unfit for office, and that hopefully the voters will intervene and vote him out.
I have a question for any of the 3 of you. When Paul Gosar was elected, he was a conservative by every standard, but he was kind of an unremarkable sort of right winger, not in the completely frenzied place he seems to be now. What broke his brain? What caused this to happen? What was it that led him over the cliff into thinking that like meeting with people like Nick Fuentes, who's a white nationalist, and fundraising is a good thing? Where do you see the inflection point and where Paul broke bad?
Well, Rick, just to follow up a little bit on Tim's, what pushed us over the edge was when he came out and accused George Soros of being behind the Charlottesville Nazi March. Up until that time, for a whole 7-year period, we had not said anything. And during that whole period, he had actually tried to take away our health care multiple times. Health care that all 3 of us rely on. Okay, what kind of brother does that to his family? All right, but that we said nothing about all of that. And, we said nothing when he was at the Bundy insurrection and, supporting that. And he never said a word when Bundy came out with his racist, description of the Negro. We never said anything there. Maybe we should have said something there. But when he started he came out with that anti-Semitic trope against George Soros, making excuses for those Nazis, that was it. And as far as what caused him to go over the edge, I don't know, Rick, you look back at it, he's coming out of the blocks, he's a birther, okay?
Yeah.
He is voting against, trying to shut down the government. And trying to default on the national debt. He seemed to me he was unhinged from the start. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And it seems like the whole party now, it got to out crazy each other. That's not crazy enough. I've got to go another level in order to attract voters or attract donors and all this. So it almost seems like it's an unsustainable house of cards. But my God, it's lasted a lot longer than I thought it would.
Jennifer, let me ask you a similar question. What was the moment for you? Was it something specific that when you finally said enough is enough, I have to speak out? Did you guys decide as a family? When did you start to notice the change that made you make the decision to say, I can't, enough is enough?
Honestly, I have some of the same, difficulties and struggles, conflicts that Dave expressed from the beginning. He allied himself with Joe Arpaio in SB 1070 and told me in a private conversation that then Governor Jan Brewer was, quote unquote, dragging her feet, right? She wasn't doing enough, quickly enough to enforce the law.
When Jan Brewer is not crazy enough.
Right.
Yeah. And as someone who spent the last 15 years as a Spanish-English medical interpreter, something that I'm really proud of, that people from so many different cultures trusted me with their very intimate healthcare trauma stories, to understand and be able to precisely relate that, to be sitting with people day in and day out and watch, the healthcare and our general socioeconomic system chew them up, and to have this person dehumanizing them from the get-go was a very big problem for me, but I didn't know where to express that in a way that was productive. So, I tried with him for some time, but it was clear that wasn't doing anything. So when the opportunities came up to collaborate together on the first letter that we wrote that was published in AZ Minor, I believe, at that time, we collaborated. There were 7 of us that signed on that letter. And then when the opportunity for the ads came up, to be honest with you, I followed right behind Dave and joined right in. I thought that was the moment.
It seems like one of those things that as a family it has to be difficult because everybody at the base level they love their siblings, but they can go wrong in life. And I feel for you guys because it certainly is something that he seems to almost revel in it now, in pushing further and further out to the edge. Is there anybody else in your family that can reach him? Is there anybody that can talk to the guy? Is it too addictive now to be on Fox and to have the sort of weird adulation of a new family in the Trump world?
Rick, what's going on here is this is a cult. Okay, this is a cult.
For sure.
Since when is do people get people out of cults without having to kidnap them and deprogram them? It doesn't work that way. No. And so we can't intervene, although people have tried to intervene. He's beyond reason, as all of these people are. And that's where it's necessary for someone to put out the cult. And I wish I could somehow have a conversation and get through with Merrick Garland. That's the person that we really need to convince to do something and make him understand there's a cult leader, there's the cult. There's no vice president of the cult, okay? So if you take out the cult leader, the cult members fly off like bees in a hive without a queen. I mean, how difficult is this? But this guy seems to be sitting on his hands and doing nothing when he's got 3 rock solid charges as an attorney. I'm telling you, he's got 3 rock solid charges against Trump sitting on his desk right now.
Absolutely. And I think that is something that we've reflected on, that I've talked to a lot of people about, where they have essentially said, it's all fine and good to put some weird jerk off who got off a Greyhound bus and walked in the Capitol and peed on the floor to give him 90 days or 6 months or whatever. It's another thing to go after the people who inspired it, motivated it, organized it, planned it, and sent the signal that said, go get them, go to the Capitol.
That's right.
I'm coming with you. We're going to march to the Capitol.
Well, I know,
that's a very good point.
To follow up on Rick, Tim, I know that you've said that you believe that your brother played a role in inciting the Capitol riots and that he should be held accountable for that. So what does that look like to you? What would you like to see done?
Well, I mean, I'm a criminal defense investigator, so Attorney General's office should, and FBI should, perform a complete, thorough, intensive investigation. And I've said this before, that if at the end of that investigation, what has been reporting, what we know happened, and his role with Ali Alexander, who is, talked about him being on the ground floor, being one of the original organizers.
Absolutely.
So you have a conspiracy right there. So, when it's all said and done, we believe that it will prove that he was an organizer and one of the masterminds of the insurrection, that he should be expelled from Congress, and that criminal charges should be brought against him. And I wholeheartedly believe every single part of that.
Tim, you've called your brother a pathological liar. Why?
If you look at him, Tara, and you kind of follow what he says, there isn't about anything that he talks about that's true.
Okay.
I mean, he's been doing this for quite some time. And so, at some point you got to call what it is, right? And so when somebody uses lies to be able to benefit themselves, and when they don't care about the truth, and when they are destructive and dangerous and toxic and lying to people, we've got to hold people account. And especially when there are elected officials that are in positions of public trust, and I want to emphasize that to the viewers, public trust. He has violated his oath of public trust in every way, shape, or form, and he should be held accountable, as well as Trump, as well as Biggs, as well as the rest.
It's a long list, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's those are powerful words coming from someone whose family, who's a sibling, and it goes to show you how much conviction you guys have, and how when it comes to right and wrong, sometimes it even means putting family aside to do what's right for the country, and that's what's happening here. We're going to come back. We have more with the Gosar siblings. Jennifer, we'll come back. I have a question for you. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned.
When you heard Governor Greg Abbott say, as soon as they come back to the state, we're going to arrest them, and we're going to cabin them inside of the Capitol, are they able to do that to y'all?
The governor has no legal ability whatsoever to arrest any member of the Texas House. So all of his pandering about that is false, yet again. The only person that can do that is the Speaker, and the Speaker has not issued arrest warrants for House members at this time.
It was an attack on the American Capitol, an assault on the temple of our democracy, a plot to destroy us all. The attackers followed a sick and corrupted ideology promoted by a charismatic leader, obsessed with grievances and wild conspiracies, driven by fear, willing to take innocent lives for their leader. On that day, our capital was saved from destruction only by the bravery of a handful of Americans with nothing in common but their love for this nation and their willingness to answer the call to courage. That day was the terrorist attack of September 11th, 2001. Al-Qaeda's attack on the Capitol was thwarted only by brave Americans willing to die to protect us all. There have only been 2 large-scale terrorist attacks planned against the U.S. Capitol. January 6th was ordered by an American president. Where do you stand? With the terrorists or America?
Welcome back to The Breakdown. We are speaking with the siblings of Congressman Paul Gosar. We have Tim, David, and Jennifer with us. As promised, Jennifer, I'm going to come to you. When you saw your brother during some of the hearings about January 6th, he has made some pretty inflammatory comments about insinuating that Capitol police officers assassinated Ashley Babbitt. He's going down this rabbit hole with this conspiracy that she was executed. He actually used those words in a congressional hearing, and that, why are they hiding this person? And that Capitol police officer has been cleared. But I know that you guys as a family have been very outspoken about your disgust with how he's approached January 6th. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I'm happy to go right into it, because what Paul talks about for other people is simply, he's describing himself. So when he says that the officer executed Ashley Babbitt, he's really talking about the role he played in Ashley Babbitt's death, right? And in that respect, Paul he was on the floor of the House, and he had falsely claimed that there were 400,000 erroneous ballots, that he had proof of that. And that claim delayed their exit. So literally, the officer is protecting Paul and his colleagues as they are exiting, but they were delayed because of Paul's false assertion, right? And here it is, the officer, between one hard place and another, trying to figure out, buy time for them to leave. And by the way, Paul's not well, so his exit isn't going to be the fastest, right? So that's not helping the situation there either. But he's between protecting those congressmen and women and this intruder who he repeatedly warned not to come through. So for us, the question is, who really has Ashley Babbitt's blood on their hands, on his hands? And we think Paul's implicated in that as well.
That's something that I don't think a lot of people realize, is that it was Gosar who was on the floor when all hell literally started to break loose, when the glass was breaking and the rioters and the insurrectionists were descending on the Capitol and breaking inside. He was the one that was speaking, and they had to suspend the proceedings on the floor,
Right.
you know, and he was unfortunately pushing the nonsense about the election. David, I know that you had some, I saw you in an interview literally apologize to the officers that day for some of your brother's behavior. What would you like to say about that now?
Well, I mean, here's Paul being one of the instrumental people in inciting this riot, this insurrection, this terrorist attack. And then an officer, you know, feels like he has to defend them, this mob, and there's just a few of them, by shooting Ashley Babbitt, and he does that. And now Paul has the nerve now to then blame the officer after he incited the attack to begin with. And you know, the ingratitude of that. I mean, what a low-life move to do, that you would sit there and then try to attack the officer, try to make his name public, so you know exactly what's going to happen to him if his name's public, you know, but you do it anyway, because you know what, Tara, Rick, you fundraise doing that stuff. I mean, how despicable is that? How despicable is that? And people want to say to us, hey, how do you come out against your brother? No, how did he put us in this situation? How did he put us in this situation? We're not the one hanging out with Nick Fuentes and you know, the Holocaust deniers and white supremacists. We're not the one marching with, you know, little Tommy Robinson in London, you know, the anti-Muslim hate march. We're not the one appearing in Trump stock, which, you know, the people there were, you know, fomenting and a desire to have a civil war. We're not doing that. We're not being at the Bundy Ranch. We're not doing any of that stuff. We're not trying to take away anybody's health care or anything like that. And people somehow turn that back on us at times and go, you know, how could you come out against your brother? You know, the real question is, how did he come out against all of us and all of you? That's the real question.
That's such a great point, and it really, it speaks. And I want to thank you guys again for coming on tonight, because it speaks to the pain he's put you guys through, and I'm really sorry for that, because you know, you guys, you're watching someone that you grew up with, who is on this dark journey down into, like you said, Nick Fuentes and Tommy Robinson. This is not going to end in a good place for anybody. And I do feel terrible for the burden your family's been forced to bear because of his behavior and because of how deeply broken he has become.
Yeah. Rick, and just one last thing is, Paul's circling the drain. Okay, we know him. I'm watching him, and I'm watching Paul circle the drain, getting weirder and weirder, getting more extreme. Where is his own family trying to talk him off the limb? His own immediate family. And they just sit there and condone this. And other members of our family stay silent too. And that creates issues amongst our family too. And we just feel like we have no choice but to do what we're doing. And we'll continue to do this.
And thank you for it. We really appreciate you guys.
But before we let you go, though, Tim, I wanted to give you an opportunity to offer any advice, because you guys aren't the only ones going through this. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of families who are facing similar divisions because they have a family member who has gone off the rails and has gone down the Trump conspiracy theory rabbit hole. One of our team members has a sister-in-law who's a QAnon crazy that spouts, you know, all of this ilk. What advice do you have to other family members who are going through similar situations?
You know, that's a tough question. I would just say that stay strong. I mean, our democracy is in a perilous position. And the only way that we get out on a positive on the other side is that, you know, we are pushing back against the lies, the hate, the division. And I would urge people to stay strong and make sure that you push back against racism and division and absolute nonsense and lies that people like Paul and Trump are promoting. So I urge you that this is something that's, our democracy, our country is definitely worth fighting for. And I urge you to push back as often and as strongly as you can.
Jennifer, any
final
words?
Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh. Yeah, I would just support what Tim is saying, because it's, I had friends in grad school that approached me about the ads that we did. And at that time, when the ads came out, I was studying grad school. And one of the things that they told me was that it was really hard to confront family members. And we offered each other mutual support to get through it. And I think, there has been as much relief and feeling of integrity as there has been pain and loss. And I do really hold on to that feeling of integrity, because I need to feel that inside of myself, to feel like I can look at you, I can look at Rick, I can look at people in my community and feel like I'm living the best life I can, right? So I would just urge them to hear that voice, to listen to their own sense of integrity and feel that relief, and know that it's worth it.
That's right. It is worth it. So, all right, guys, we've been very, very heavy tonight. We're about to go into our Twitter portion of the show. And during the break, you guys had come up with your own names for our little Matt Gaetz, our little Matt Gaetz game, wrong answers only. All right, Tim, I'm going to start with you and go across. What's wrong answer only?
Drunk frat boy.
Jennifer?
Miami Vice impersonator.
David?
Yeah, and I'm going to change mine up a little bit. Merrick, why aren't you prosecuting this drunk fat boy?
There you go. We love it.
Brilliant.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for being with us tonight, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you all so much.
You had to give them a shot because they were like making.
You gotta lighten the mood a little bit there.
You gotta lighten it a little bit, man. It's tough. I feel for them, because I don't have family members, thank God, that have lost it. But a lot of my friends have family that they're divided. My best friend is in-laws. It's crazy. But I often say one of my closest friends in the whole world, she is on the wrong side of this, and even in a position, has a platform that spreads this propaganda. She's fully entrenched in it, and it's put a wedge in between our relationship, and we haven't spoken in over a year and a half, and it's hard. It sucks because I don't.
It's real, and I
don't know how we're gonna come back from it.
It's real, and it's out there, and it's very painful for a lot of people.
It's true. It is, and it's no one is immune from it. It goes all the way up to Congress. All right. Well, let's take some of your tweets. Okay. Good. My producers are telling us that we've got some funny responses to the Gaetz photo, so we'll go right to it. Let's see. What have we got?
Let's get it.
Jim Jones just before the Kool-Aid. Oh, Lord. Jim Racer.
That's Gary and Hannah's number 3 Elvis impersonator. Brilliant.
The notorious Roy G. Biv. The vocalist for Douche Mode instead of Depeche Mode.
Oh, God.
Roy G. Biv, Fabulous. The Colors of the Rainbow. I remember that from elementary school. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Keep them coming, guys. Keep them coming.
For sure.
This is funny stuff. All right. Do we have a voicemail? I think we do. Okay, let's hear it.
Hi,
then we'll go to break.
How you guys doing? This is Mike from Portland. Watch you guys every show that you guys come out with. I'm glad to see you're back. Can you answer a question for me? Do you believe that where we are now, as far as the Republican Party, started in the '64 convention with Goldwater and Rockefeller, and that was the turning point in the Republican Party? Give me an answer to that and let me know.
Mike, that's a great question, and I want to give you sort of a 30,000-foot answer. It's easy to try to overlay as far back as you possibly can in a lot of historical movements, but really Trump's effect on the party is sui generis. It is a combination of multiple forces. Trump's celebrity from being on The Apprentice for 14 years, the rise of Fox News, the rise of Facebook and social media, the development of a completely separate right-wing media ecosystem. So yes, Goldwater breaking apart.
The undercurrent, right? Well, that was always kind of the ugly underbelly.
It's an echo, but it's important to understand just how fundamental the change in the political ecosystem because of Fox, Facebook, and the right-wing media enabled that, and frankly poses a much greater danger now, because when you look at when you look at the race between Goldwater, when you look at what happened in later life, Goldwater became basically a moderate sort of libertarianish guy.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at how the presidents sort of all end up as a sort of centerpiece. Barack Obama, no matter what we said about him, ended up as a center-left president. George W. Bush, no matter what Democrats said about him, was a center-right president. Ronald Reagan was a center-right president. Jimmy Carter was a center-left president. We don't really have the extremes in the country historically, but now what we've done is broken apart that sort of homeostatic balance between the two parties, where people sort of ended up in the squishy middle. And nobody's totally satisfied with that answer, but it's the truth that Trump's emergence on the political scene is a true cataclysmic black swan in our history.
Indeed it is. Well, we're going to talk about a little more history after the break. We're going to talk some space and anniversaries and the Apollo landing and all that cool stuff. So we'll be right back.
Something's wrong with Donald Trump. He's shaky, weak, trouble speaking, trouble walking. So why aren't we talking about this? And why isn't the press covering Trump's secretive midnight run to Walter Reed Medical Center? Why do so many reporters who cover the White House pretend they can't see Trump's decline? The most powerful office in the world needs more than a weak, unfit, shaky president. Trump doesn't have the strength to lead, nor the character to admit it. We're not doctors, but we're not blind. It's time we talk about this. Trump is not well.
There you go. Okay, now I think I'll do the same. For those who haven't read the plaque, we'll read the plaque that's on the front landing gear of this LEM. There's two hemispheres, one showing each of the two hemispheres of Earth. Underneath it says, "Here men from the planet Earth first set foot upon the moon, July 1969 AD. It came in peace." I guess you're about the only person around that doesn't have TV coverage of the scene. That's all right, I don't mind a bit. How is the quality of the TV? Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. It really is. Oh, geez, that's great. Is the lighting halfway decent? Yes, indeed. They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes.
Welcome back to the breakdown. We're going to end the show tonight talking about some cool space stuff. Why? Because
we're nerds.
Today, we're not only that, yes, we've established that already. I mean, I have a NASA shirt on, for goodness sakes. Today is the anniversary of the Apollo 11 moonwalk, 52 years ago. That's the space flight that took that first landed humans on the moon. Neil Armstrong famously said, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Or did he? There is some dispute. He claims that he said that it's actually one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind, but nobody heard the A. But I kind of like what we all believe it is better. One small step for man.
Like what we thought he was trying to say.
Right. But there's some other, cool stuff, because not only are we talking about Apollo 11 and that, because it's important to recognize, but we also have the Bezos launch. We're going to get to that in a second. But here are some cool stats about the Apollo 11 mission that some folks may or may not be familiar with. So the team that took them to the moon included more than 400,000 scientists, engineers, technicians, and workers from across the country, including the Hidden Figures Black women that helped with that whole thing there. If you haven't seen the movie, you should watch it. It's amazing. The computers, I'm fascinated by this. The computers in the Apollo spacecraft were less complex than a basic calculator. So like our phones that we carry around in our pockets have like multitude, exponentially more power than what they actually use to land men on the moon and to conduct a spacewalk and bring them back. That is unbelievable to me.
Yep.
I don't know how. That's amazing. Armstrong wasn't convinced that the team would be able to land their lunar module. He put the odds of success at only 50-50. That's a little depressing, but thank God he was wrong on that. They were successful, but he wasn't crazy, because the Soviets tried to do their thing, and they actually crashed into the moon about 500 miles from the Apollo landing site. So his concerns were warranted. I just said that Armstrong claims that the famous words actually said one small step for a man instead of for man, but that's okay. We kind of like for man. What else we got? The Saturn V rocket that launched the Apollo astronauts into space is still the tallest, heaviest, and most powerful rocket ever flown.
Not for long.
Rick, have you ever been to Cape Canaveral?
Only about 100 times.
Okay, because I know you're from Florida, but so you've seen that.
And I actually, when I was young, my dad was able to take me to a bunch of space launches, including a couple of the Apollo launches as a young wee space
That's
nerd.
So cool.
And I can remember, at 5.5 years old, sitting on the terrazzo floor of our house in Carrollwood, Florida, watching a black and white image in the middle of the afternoon of Neil Armstrong stepping off on the moon. I have a vivid, crisp memory of it.
Wow.
And it really, when you look back at what they had to do the job with, slide rules, guts, like straight up old fashioned engineering.
Yes.
It's even more of an accomplishment in perspective, in that perspective.
The computing power of a calculator. That is insane. I think that really puts it in perspective. I did not know that you had a memory of the Apollo flight, which is really cool. So that was impromptu. I've had the benefit of witnessing 2 space launches because the congressman I worked for was on the space committee. I've mentioned this before. So we got a chance to go. It was a bucket list thing for my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to take her twice. It was really cool. We got to
Wonderful.
hang out in the VIP section with with other astronauts. And we got really, up close. You can only, I think it's like 2 point something miles you have to be away as a safe distance in case, God forbid, something goes wrong. It's amazing. They have the traditional eating of baked beans and hot sauce that they go, it's a whole thing. It's very, very cool.
Oh, yeah.
And it is one of the most exhilarating experiences that I'm glad I got a chance to do in person. So it's really neat. But the other thing, go ahead, Rick, and then we're going to talk about
here's the thing. When I was a kid, we went over to Apollo launches, and then I went to the first, the last, and a whole bunch of shuttle launches in between.
Yeah, I was at the last Endeavour shuttle launch.
And when my son was young, we went over to see satellite launches in that period between no space shuttle and today.
Right.
But right now, and I know a lot of people are like, why are these billionaires building these rockets? Da, 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 da. Guys, humans build things. They go places. It's a good thing. We should be happy that there's innovation and jobs and a sense of adventure, because while the Apollo was the largest rocket ever flown, the new SpaceX booster is going to dwarf the Apollo, and it's going to open up space exploration and space commerce and create jobs. It's going to create technologies. It's going to do a lot of the things. It's going to enable us to get into space cheaply, where it's going to alleviate resource crunches in the future, because there are single meteorites with the entire supply of platinum that the Earth has inside of it on them. It's a lot of stuff that's going to spin off of this. And I know some people are like, well, I'll spend the money here at home. Guys, we don't allocate resources very well. but we should be spending money across the board because we need to be a species that can get off this damn planet if something goes terribly wrong, like a meteor or, Donald Trump's own army.
Listen.
LPTV reporting from moon base.
Wait, we have Space Force though, Rick. Come on. Trump was 10 steps ahead of you on this. My husband jokes all the time that when shit gets crazy, he goes, "I'm going to Elysium." Have you ever seen that movie? He's like, "I'm out of here. I'm going to Elysium." Well, Jeff Bezos today added to our legacy in space. He actually talked about the importance of space exploration and travel, and even the tourist part of it. But being able to be familiar with operating in space, he was like, we should be able to move polluting manufacturing and all of that to space, and so that we can preserve the planet. I mean, he has very lofty goals. I think Bezos and Elon Musk and Branson, they all have different parts of this, different facets of all of this going on, but it is good. You're right. Yes, it may be a bunch of a dick swinging contest for some billionaires, but you know what? It ultimately does have repercussions that are positive for our country, particularly for the world, not just the United States, but like what Elon Musk has already accomplished and what he's doing. He's allowed us to take folks back up to the space station when we ended the shuttle program. He's allowed us to do that,
and they've reduced the cost of going to orbit already, almost by an order of magnitude.
It was $1 billion a launch.
Especially used to cost $1 billion a launch, and it was like 35,000 pounds or $35,000 a kilogram to get into orbit. Well, we're approaching the point now where it's going to be a couple dollars per kilogram to get into orbit. It's going to be basically as cheap as sending something, as shipping something from China to the U.S.
Right. So, and Bezos made the point today that this was a clean, the rocket, fuel that we saw was clean energy. Basically, it wasn't polluting.
Listen, this is exciting, and I will say, people are drawn to a sense of exploration and adventure. It is a natural human instinct to look up, to look out, to look forward, and I think what these people are doing with their own damn money, for the most part, is a net benefit to the world.
Listen, Bezos was also influenced by watching the Apollo launches as a kid as well. He's admitted that he's been fascinated with it since he was younger. So, those things stay with you. And who else was inspired? And another inspiring part of this whole thing, which we will end the show honoring Wally Funk, because she is amazing. Not only did Jeff Bezos make history with his launch today, but he made history because he took up 82-year-old Wally Funk with him. She is the little lady you see there on your screen. Yes, 82 years old and tough as nails. She became the oldest person ever to go into space. Who was the person before that? John Glenn.
Bill Nelson.
John Glenn. It was John Glenn. Yeah, it was John Glenn, right? But I want to just say a couple things about Wally Funk. For those who do not know her, first of all, there is a Netflix documentary about the Mercury 13, which was a group of women who were highly skilled pilots back in the 60s that were training to potentially be astronauts. And they ended up not getting that opportunity because it wasn't NASA funded. It was a privately funded program, but NASA wouldn't pick it up. And they, the sexism of the times, they decided that, maybe women shouldn't do this. And so
they said the rule they set at the time was that all the astronaut candidates had to be test pilots. At the time, the only test pilots were military. At the time, the only men were admitted to the military in aviation roles like that. Wally Funk is a lifelong aviator.
Yep.
She is a hell of a pilot. She's been a great leader, and she's a steely-eyed missile woman as of today.
Indeed. So you know what? She started flying at 9. Because, back in those times, it was, girls don't do that. Women don't do that. Well, she took her first flight lesson at 9. She went to college in Oklahoma. She went to Oklahoma State because they had a Flying Aggies program, so she could fly with them. Then she became the first woman to be a flight instructor at Fort Sill in Oklahoma. And when she got accepted to this Mercury 13 program, like I said, there's a Netflix documentary that came out in 2018 about this. So I suggest folks go and watch it. She went through unbelievably rigorous testing, and she talks all about the poking and prodding and stuff that they did, and what the women endured who were part of this group. And at some point, they performed better than the men did on some of these tests. So, and yet, despite all of that, NASA would not move forward. But they didn't stop there. They didn't take that lying down. 2 of those women testified in front of Congress saying, like, we deserve an opportunity. Because remember, Rick, the Soviets sent a woman up. They got the first
Valentina
woman.
Tereshkova.
That's right. That's right. And some, historians think that it was a huge mistake by the United States to abandon sending women up back then, because it could have changed the trajectory of women in this country much, much sooner. Accepting that a woman could be an astronaut, because an astronaut was like the most important, prestigious thing, you could ever be other than president. And so imagine how that would have changed culture if they would have allowed women to move forward. But it was John Glenn, I found out when I was researching this, who testified against them. He testified he was not in favor of letting women go up. He said, quote, "It may be undesirable." So John Glenn is still a hero, but I wasn't happy about that. I was like, come on, John Glenn, what are you doing? But anyway, Wally Funk is extremely, she is an extraordinary person. She and should be an inspiration for everyone, and for all the young girls out there that want to get into flying, astronomy. Never give up on your dream. She was 82 years old, and during an interview, a couple years ago, before she had this opportunity, she was interviewed by The Guardian, and they asked her, did you ever think about giving up, your dream of becoming an astronaut? And she said, give up? She said, hell no. Faster, higher, longer. That's my motto. I'll fly till I die. Well, Wally Funk, God bless you. She put a little postcard. If you guys go back and watch some of the footage, you see a postcard on the capsule that she came up and down in. What was on that postcard? It was a picture of herself with an American flag in the background. And she said she was going to take a selfie of herself with Earth behind her. And she did it. God bless you, Wally Funk. You're an inspiration. You have lived.
She has 19,000 flight hours, which, by the way, is a shit ton of flight hours. Like, nobody has that many, not even like high time Air Force fighter pilots. She has 19,000 flight hours, but the 7 minutes today mattered.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Unbelievable. Spoken from a pilot. Well, that is it for us tonight. Americans can do amazing things. That's why we fight. We love it. Human ingenuity, amazing. So be inspired. We hope you are. And Wally Funk, good for you, sister. All right, that's it for tonight's show. We will see you again on Thursday. Don't forget to watch our sister show tomorrow. We're speaking at 8 p.m. Check out the podcast. It's out everywhere you get your podcasts. And we'll see you Thursday at 8. Good night.
Good night, folks.
Hey gang, it's Reed from the Lincoln Project. Just want to make an ask of y'all today. I'm asking every one of you to make a video just like this, 10, 15, 20 seconds, and ask one person, just one person, to go to lincolnproject.us and join our effort to protect democracy and to ensure that our families and our kids get to live and enjoy the freedoms that we've come to take for granted.
My relationship with this gentleman is outstanding.
Does Mitch call the shots now, Donald? Yes, he does. He says he runs the Republican Party. The party you built.
Excuse me.
He's the boss now. He's even taking shots at you.
A mob was assaulting the Capitol in his name.
When did Mitch overpower you?
Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know.
No power. He doesn't care what you think of candidates. He's in charge.
We were winning everything.
He'll pick them himself.
No control. And all of a sudden it was just called off.
And they'll be loyal to Mitch. You can't beat him. Not you.
Our weak Republican leadership.
Is this still your party or not? You can't keep up. You're losing your base. They've forgotten you. They're calling you Mitch's cuck. He's stronger than you. If you don't do something soon, loser, you can kiss 2024 goodbye.
McConnell is hopeless, and he can't stop anything.